Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hey. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshamam. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hakimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Hakimam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashyatya Disha Charine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hari Haraye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Gopala Govinda Rama Sri Madhusudana. Om Apavitra Pavitro Va Sarva Avastangatopi Va Yasmaret Pundarik Akshang Sabaya Abhyantara Suchihi. Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langahayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Dinacharanam. Yat kripa tamaham vande Paramananda Madhavam. Trinadapi Sunichena Tarar Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. Kalau nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gatir anyata. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is scene or episode number 3, which I have subtitled this section, Sarvang Kal Idam Krishna. We are hearing the prayers of the personified Vedas, and currently Sanandana Kumar is speaking. He prays, after the dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation, the entire energy and the whole creation in its nucleus form enters into the body of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu at that time remains asleep for a long, long time. And when there is again necessity of creation, the Vedas personified assemble around Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and begin to glorify him, describing his wonderful transcendental pastimes. Prabhupada explains, it is exactly like a king. When the king is asleep in the morning, the appointed reciters come around his bedroom and begin to sing of the king's chivalrous activities. And while hearing of his glorious activities, the king gradually awakens. The Vedic reciters, or the personified Vedas, continued to sing, O Ajita, O unconquerable Lord, O Supreme Personality, you are Sama Viruddha. No one is equal to you or greater than you. No one can be more glorious in one's activities. Jai, Jai, all glories unto you, O Ajita, all glories unto you. For by your own transcendental nature, you are Samasta Bhaga, fully possessing all 6 opulences. As such, you are able to deliver all conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. O Lord, we fervently pray that you kindly do so and deliver all the conditioned souls from the clutches of your illusory energy, Maya. All the living entities, being your parts and parcels, are naturally joyful, eternal, and full of knowledge in their original position. But due to their own faults, or rather, due to their misuse of their minute independence, they try to imitate you, Lord, by trying to become themselves the supreme enjoyer. Thus, they disobey your supremacy and they become offenders. And because of their offenses, your material energy has taken charge of them. Thus, their transcendental qualities of joyfulness, bliss, and wisdom become covered by the clouds of the 3 material qualities. This cosmic manifestation, made of those 3 material qualities, is just like a prison house for the conditioned souls. The conditioned souls are struggling very hard to escape from material bondage. And according to their different conditions of life, they have been given different types of engagements. But all engagements are based on your knowledge. As it is, Pious activities can be executed only when inspired by your mercy. Therefore, without taking shelter at your lotus feet, one cannot surpass the influence of the material energy. Actually, we as personified Vedic knowledge are always engaged in your service just to help the conditioned soul to understand you. So now, Srila Prabhupada comments on these last set of prayers by the personified Vedas. This prayer of the Vedas personified illustrates that the Vedas are meant for helping the conditioned souls to understand Krishna. All the Shrutis, or personified Vedas, offered glories to Krishna again and again, singing, Jai, Jai. This indicates that Lord Krishna is praised for his glories. Of all of his glories, the most important is his causeless mercy upon the conditioned souls in reclaiming them from the clutches of Maya. So I feel impelled to emphasize this because this is something I very, very much like, appreciate, and try to rely on this statement that was just made by Prabhupada. And it bears repeating. This indicates that Lord Krishna is praised for his glories. And of all of Krishna's glories, the most important is his causeless mercy upon the conditioned souls in reclaiming them from the clutches of Maya. Prabhupada continues. There are unlimited numbers of living entities in different varieties of bodies, some moving and some standing in one place. And the conditioned life of these living entities is due only to their forgetfulness of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the living entity wants to lord it over the material energy by imitating the position of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, then he or she is immediately captured by the material energy and, according to one's desire, is offered a variety of 8,400,000 different kinds of bodies. Although undergoing the threefold miseries of material existence, the illusion living entity falsely thinks oneself the master of all one surveys. And while under the spell of the material energy, which represents the threefold material qualities, the living entity is so entangled that it is not at all possible for one to become free unless one is graced by the Supreme Lord. The living entity cannot conquer the influence of the material modes of nature by his or her own endeavor. But because material nature is working under the control of the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna is beyond the jurisdiction of the material nature. So except for Krishna, all living entities, beginning from Brahma down to an ant, are conquered by the contact of material nature. Because Krishna possesses in full the six opulences of wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, Lord Krishna alone is beyond the spell of material nature. So unless the living entity is situated in Krishna consciousness, he or she cannot approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet, Lord Krishna, by his omnipotency, can dictate from within as Param Atma, the Super Soul. For instance, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna advises in the chapter 9, Yat Koroshi Yad Jahosi, Yat Koroshi Yad Ashnasi, Yad Juhoshi Dadasi Yat, Yat Tapasyasi Kaunteya, Tat Kurushva Mad Arpanam. Krishna says, whatever you do, do for me. Whatever you eat, first of all, offer to me. Whatever charity you want to give, first give it to me. And whatever austerities and penances you want to perform, perform for me. So in this way, the karmis are directed to gradually develop Krishna consciousness. Similarly, Krishna directs the philosophers to approach him gradually by discriminating between Brahman and Maya, or eternal truth, and dependent truth. At last, when one is mature in knowledge, he or she surrenders unto Krishna, just as Krishna says in the 7th chapter of the Gita. Bahunang janmanam ante, gyanavan mang prapadyate, vasudeva sarvam iti, sa mahatma sa durlabha. After many, many births, the wise philosopher surrenders unto Krishna. And the yogis are also directed to concentrate their meditation upon Krishna within the heart. And by such continued process of Krishna consciousness, the yogi can become free from the clutches of material energy. But, as is stated in Bhagavad Gita, because the devotees are engaged in devotional service with love and affection from the very beginning, Lord Krishna directs them so that they can approach him without difficulty or deviation. So, it is only by the grace of Lord Krishna that the living entity can understand the absolute truth, or the exact position of Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, which are the three progressive features of the absolute truth. The statements of the personified Vedas give clear evidence that the Vedic literature is presented only for understanding Krishna. It is confirmed in chapter 15 of the Gita. Vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo, Vedanta krid Vedavid eva chaham. Through all the Vedas, it is Krishna alone who has to be understood. Krishna is always enjoying, either in the material world or in the spiritual world. And that is because Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. For Krishna, there is no distinction between the material worlds and spiritual worlds. The material world is certainly an impediment for ordinary living entities because they are under the control of the material energy. But Krishna, being the controller of the material world, has nothing to do with the impediments it offers. Therefore, in different parts of the Upanishads, the Vedas declare, Brahman is eternal, full of all knowledge and all bliss. But the one Supreme Personality of Godhead is existing in the heart of every living entity. Eka Deva Sarva Bhuteshu Gudha Sarva Vyapi Sarva Bhutantaratma Karmadyaksha Sarva Bhutadivasa Sakshi Cheta Kevala Nirgunascha. Because of Krishna's all-pervasiveness, Krishna is able to enter not only into the hearts of the living entities, but even unto the atoms also. As the Paramatma Supersoul, Krishna is the controller of all activities of the living entities. Krishna is living within all of us and witnessing our actions, allowing us to act according to our individual desires. And Krishna is also giving the results to us of our different activities. Krishna is the living force of all things, but still, Krishna is transcendental to the material qualities. Krishna is omnipotent. Krishna is expert in manufacturing everything. And on account of Krishna's superior natural knowledge, Krishna can bring everyone under his control. As such, Krishna is everyone's master. Krishna is sometimes manifest on the surface of the globe, but Krishna is simultaneously within all matter. Desiring to expand himself in multi-forms, Krishna glanced over the material energy, and thus innumerable living entities became manifest. Everything is created by Krishna's superior energy, and everything in Krishna's creation appears to be perfectly done without any deficiency. Those who aspire for liberation from this material world must therefore worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the ultimate cause of all causes. Krishna is just like the total mass of earth, from which varieties of earthly pots are manufactured. The pots are made of earthly clay, they rest on the earth, and after being destroyed, their elements ultimately merge back into the earth. Although the personality of Godhead is the original cause of all varieties of manifestation, still the impersonalists especially stress the Vedic statement, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman. Everything is spirit. The impersonalists do not take into account the varieties of manifestation emanating from the supreme cause of Brahman. They simply take into consideration that everything emanates from Brahman and after destruction merges into Brahman, and that the intermediate stage of manifestation is also Brahman. Although the Mayavadis believe that prior to its manifestation, The cosmos was in Brahman. After creation, it remains in Brahman. And after the destruction, it merges into Brahman. They do not know actually what Brahman is. This fact is clearly described in the Brahma Samhita. Agnir mahi gaganam ambu murad dishascha kalas tathatma manasiti jagat trayani yasmad bhavanti vibhavanti vishanti yancha govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. The living entities, space, time, and the material elements like air, fire, earth, sky, water, and even the subtle mind constitute the total cosmic manifestation known as Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, which is all manifested by Govinda. It flourishes on the strength of Govinda, and after annihilation enters into it and is conserved in Govinda. Lord Brahma therefore says, I worship Lord Govinda, the original personality, the cause of all causes. In Sanskrit, the word Brahman indicates the greatest of all and the maintainer of everything. The impersonalists are attracted by the greatness of the sky, but because of their poor fund of knowledge, they are not attracted by the greatness of Krishna. But in our practical life, however, we are attracted by the greatness of a person and not by the greatness of a big mountain. So actually the term Brahman can be applied to Krishna only. Therefore in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna admitted, after hearing the 4 nutshell verses in the 10th chapter, where Arjuna says, Parang Brahma, Parang Dhamma. Arjuna said, he declared, that Lord Krishna, you are the Param Brahman. You are the supreme rest of everything. Krishna is the supreme Brahman because of his unlimited knowledge, unlimited potencies, unlimited strength, unlimited influence, unlimited beauty, and unlimited renunciation. Therefore, the word Brahman can be applied to Krishna only. Arjuna affirms that because the impersonal Brahman is the effulgence emanating as rays of Krishna's transcendental body, Krishna is the Para Brahman. Krishna himself confirms at the end of chapter 14 in Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Everything is resting on Brahman, but Brahman itself is resting on Krishna. Therefore, Krishna is the ultimate Brahman, or Paramatma, or Para Brahman. The material elements are accepted as inferior energies of Krishna because by their interaction, the cosmic manifestation takes place. The material elements accepted as inferior energies is mentioned by Krishna in chapter 7 of the Gita. The material elements rest on Krishna, and after dissolution, the material elements again enter into the body of Krishna as his subtle energy. Krishna is therefore the cause of both manifestation and dissolution. So the Vedic mantra Sarva Kalvidang Brahma simply means actually everything is Krishna. And that is the vision of the Mahabhagavatas, for they see everything in relation to Krishna. Now, the impersonalists argue that Krishna has transformed himself into many, and that therefore everything is Krishna, and also worship of everything is worship of Krishna. This false argument is answered by Krishna in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Na cha matstani bhutani pashame yogam aishvaram bhutta brinna cha bhutasto mamatma bhuta bhavanaha. Although everything is a transformation of the energy of Krishna, at the same time, Krishna himself is not present everywhere. Krishna is simultaneously present and not present. By Krishna's energy, he is present everywhere, but as the energetic, Krishna is not present everywhere. This simultaneous presence and non-presence is actually inconceivable to our present senses. But a clear explanation is given in the beginning of Ishopanishad, where it is stated, Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idang Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. This mantra says that the Supreme Lord is complete, and that although unlimited energies and their transformations are emanating from Krishna, Krishna's personality is not in the least bit transformed. Therefore, since Krishna is the cause of all causes, intelligent persons should take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Therefore, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advises, Sarva dharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvang sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shucha. Everyone should just surrender unto Krishna alone. That is the way of Vedic instruction. And since Krishna is the cause of all causes, Krishna is worshipped by all kinds of sages and saints by their observance of the regulative principles. When there is a necessity for meditation, great personalities meditate on the transcendental form of Krishna within the heart. In this way, the minds of great personalities are always engaged in Krishna. And with minds engaged in Krishna, naturally the captivated devotees simply talk of Krishna. Talking of Krishna or singing of Krishna is called kirtan. And Lord Chaitanya also recommends kirtaniya sada hari, which means always thinking and always talking of Krishna and nothing else. That is called Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is so sublime that anyone who takes to this process is elevated to the highest perfection of life, far, far beyond the concept of liberation. In Bhagavad Gita, in both at the end of chapter 9 And towards the end of chapter 18, Krishna advises, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mang namaskuru. Everyone must always think of Krishna, render devotional service to Krishna, worship Krishna, and offer obeisances to Krishna. In this way, a devotee becomes fully Krishnaized, and being always situated in such Krishna consciousness, ultimately goes back to Krishna. Although the Vedas have recommended worship of different demigods as different parts and parcels of Krishna, it is to be understood that such instructions are meant for Alpa Medasam, or the less intelligent class, who are still attracted by material enjoyment. Krishna therefore informs this to Arjuna in chapter 7 of the Gita. Kamaistaistaya hrita jnana prapadyante anya devata tang niyamam astaya prakritya niyata swaya antavatu phalang teshang tad bhavati alpa medasam devan deva yajo yanti mad bhakta yanti mam api. The person who actually wants perfect fulfillment of the mission of human life should simply worship Lord Krishna, and that will simplify the matter and completely guarantee the success of one's human life. Although the sky, the water, and the land are all part and parcel of this material world, when one stands on the solid land, one's position is more secure than when one stands in the sky or in the water. An intelligent person, therefore, does not stand under the protection of different demigods, even though they are part and parcel of Krishna. Rather, one stands on the solid ground of Krishna consciousness. That makes one's position sound and secure. The impersonalists sometimes give the example that if one stands on a stone or a piece of wood, one certainly stands on the surface of the land, because the stone and wood are both resting on the surface of the earth. But it may also be replied that if one stands directly on the surface of the earth, one is more secure than on the wood or stone, which are themselves resting on the earth. In other words, taking shelter of Paramatma or taking shelter of impersonal Brahman is not as secure a course as taking direct shelter of Krishna in Krishna consciousness. The position of the Jnanis and Yogis is therefore not as secure as the position of the devotees of Krishna. Lord Krishna has therefore advised in Bhagavad Gita, Hrita Jnana, that only a person who has lost his or her sense takes to the worship of demigods. And regarding persons who are attached to the impersonal Brahman, the Srimad Bhagavatam declares, when the demigods were praying to Krishna in the womb of Devaki, one of their prayers was, Ye Ravandaksha Vimukta Maninas Tvayasta Bhavad Avishuddha Buddhayaha Ahruya Krishtrena Parang Padang Tata Patanti Adho Nadrita Yushmad Angrayaha My dear Lord Krishna, those who are thinking themselves as liberated by mental speculation are not yet purified of the contamination of material nature because of their inability to find the shelter of your lotus feet. And although they rise to the transcendental situation of existence in impersonal Brahman, they certainly must fall from their exalted position because they have neglected to desire your lotus feet. In conclusion, Lord Krishna therefore advises that the Upamedasam, worshippers of the demigods, are not very intelligent persons. Why? Because they derive only temporary, exhaustible results. Such as it is, their endeavors are those of less intelligent men. But Lord Krishna assures that his devotee has no fear of falling. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you for staying for this long philosophical class. Let's do the prayers of protection, the Nirantara insurance policy, and then we'll hear your cogent purports from all of you. Namaste Narasimhaya, Prahlad Ahlad Dayane, Hiranya Kashi Puravakshaha, Shilatanka Nakalaye, Ito Nrsinga Parato Nrsingho, Yato Yato Yami Tato Nrsingha, Bahir Nrsingho, Hridaye Nrsingho, Nrsingham Adim Sharanam Prapadye, Tavakara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Sringam, Dalita Hiranya Kashipo Tanubringam, Keshavadrita Narahadi Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Keshavadrita Nrsinga Rupa, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Hare, Jai Jagadisha Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Tat Sat